I think Emily Henry might be our generation's answer to Nora Ephron, says Sophie Cousins. Huh. Okay, so you might not have heard of Nora Ephron, and you might not have heard of Emily Henry. I don't really know how popular these books are. I've seen them at Target. I really like their pretty cartoon cover things that we now do for books. It disguises that they're smutty romance novels, I guess. Though these are not necessarily as smutty as a lot of things. We do spice, right, when it comes to romance novels. So on the spice-o-meter, they're like a mild, probably, is how I would put it. We've got the pretty covers and the snazzy cartoon style. I'm pretty sure she has movie adaptations coming out for her books, like for 4 out of the 5, I think, according to this random article right here. These are popular books. I've seen them at Target. That's how I measure popularity. The Nora Ephron reference, though, is what intrigued me. They're the reasons that I actually picked up and read these books, not the pretty cover. Nora Ephron was a screenwriter, first and foremost, and you might have swooned over Tom Hanks at some point, maybe? I'm not really sure what the demographic of people who watch this will be, so you may not have swooned over Tom Hanks in Sleepless in Seattle or You Got Mail. That's okay. That's okay. We're not all the same age here, and that's fine. We can be different. You've heard of Sleepless in Seattle, right? And you've seen When Harry Met Sally. You know this scene, right?
Oh, God. Oh.
You know Meg Ryan. Of course you know Meg Ryan. Classic. She's like the quirky girl. She's cute, but she's not hot. Though actually, Meg Ryan was pretty darn hot, guys. But she's cute. She's not hot. She's approachable. She's a friend. She's a little weird. She owns bookshops. She falls in love with time travelers. And Billy Crystal? She wants ice cream on the side because when you put it on a warm pie, it causes the ice cream to melt. Isn't that endearing? So I love Meg Ryan movies, and I don't claim they're good. They're not. I mean, I love You've Got Mail. I love Kate and Leopold. I have some mixed feelings about Sleepless in Seattle, but I don't really claim they're great movies, though. I mean, I adore When Harry Met Sally. That's in one of my top 10 movies of all time ranking list type things. If there are books that are my generation's answer to Nora Ephron, I'm in. Let's read. So these books are both the answer to Meg Ryan movies and not at all. They are romance novels, and I can't expect them to be all things to me, you know? That's not fair. I like these books. I have not read, for the record, Funny Story yet. That's on my to-be-read Goodreads list right now. But these books, they're stupid. The premises are pretty darn contrived. The characters are tropey. They make me cringe. They also make me cackle in pure delight. Like, whenever they do something stupid or ridiculous or like no human would choose to do this, I'm just sitting there and like, yes, do that. That sounds so great. Which is what one would want and expect from a rom-com. So in that way, they are definitely fulfilling that role. They are acting the rom-com way. They are making me shriek and giggle and root for a couple that is completely fictional. I would like to go over these books a little. Let's start with some spoilish-free plot. And I'd like to cover some tropes that keep coming up in Emily Henry books. And finally, is this an answer to Nora Ephron? I'm not watching romantic comedies anymore, but I am reading a lot of romance novels. Have they filled the role? So this video is going to be covering 4 books. 4 books. And that's Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation. This is the library book. And Book Lovers, and Happy Place, which I read as a library book, so I don't have it anymore because it turned it in. Beach Read. We're gonna now have a little graphic right here. Follows January Andrew, who is in a writing slump. She's a writer. Her father, who has a complicated past, is explored throughout the book, and that's kind of the reason for her writing slump. So you'd think that because this is called Beach Read, It would be in a beach house, and it kind of is, but it's on a lake. It's not on the ocean. And it's just one scene that even takes place on the lake beach. And it doesn't totally make sense why that's the title. It's pretty misleading. Maybe it's supposed to be that the books that January writes are books that one would read at the beach. And it could also be that the book itself is kind of like a beach read or an airplane read. So January's main tension is that she feels betrayed by her father because his mistress shows up at his funeral and gives her the keys to this beach house, lake house. The betrayal has caused her to have like a happily ever writing slump because her parents' marriage was one of the things that she built her writing upon, her belief in happily ever after. And somewhat reasonably, what she decides to do is go to the beach house and she's going to write for a few months and try and get out of her funk and just kind of force it to happen. She's just going to lock it down. And that is super believable to me because whenever I've heard about writers doing stuff like that, like they do that. They go to a cabin in the woods for a month or a few weeks and they write and then they get out whatever needs to come out. She is neighbors with this fella, Augustus Everett. Augustus, not a sexy name. They knew each other in college and were kind of rivals, only he was in love with her the entire time. He writes literary fiction and they challenge each other to write in each other's style. And Augustus will write a romance and January's going to write literary fiction. And they make a bet, but that part doesn't really matter, but it is a trope. They do research and field trips, which is kind of like the forced proximity trope. And would you believe it? They fall in love. In fact, Augustus has been in love this entire time, or at least he's had a torch in his heart for January since college, even though he was married and divorced since then. I guess that's a spoiler. Sorry, spoiler. I won't go into any more detail in case you actually would like to read this, but be assured there is a happily ever after because what kind of romance novel would not have a happily ever after? So overall, I'd give Beach Read a 4 out of 5. I liked it. I liked it a lot. The most contrived part for me was January not realizing that Augustus was in love with her or that he wanted to be with her. There's this whole tension where she's like, he only sleeps with one woman once ever, so we can't sleep together because then he'll never want to talk to me again. And it's like, girl, my dude, my sister in Christ. The reason he only sleeps with girls once is because he's not in love with them because he's so in love with you. And that's the stuff I shriek at. I'm a ridiculous person for enjoying this. The longing was really well written. That's the part that I like, the longing. And I liked Augustus's family. January's best friend did feel kind of just like the stereotypical, I have a best friend and here she is in this novel. Look, I have a best friend. I'm a normal person. It's very Rosie O'Donnell to Meg Ryan in Sleepless in Seattle. The weirdest part of the book was there's this camping scene. They're on one of their novel research field trips and they've gone to this it's not a campground, this place in the woods where there used to be a cult. And then they pitch their tent up and it's raining, so they can't leave. And so they like do it at the cult place. Ugh. Take that information as you will if you decide you want to read this because you haven't read it yet. For the tropes, we've got kind of a second chance romance and we've got rivals to lovers, neighbors - forced proximity, opposites attract, grumpy sunshine. I think I named them all. I don't really know. I'm just pretending I know about tropes. Next, people we meet on vacation. Y'all, they meet people on vacation, but no one important at all. I have no idea where this title came from. This one should have been People Who Take Vacations or The Summer Trip. I don't know. I don't name books for a living, but there are no people met on vacation except like Buck, the water taxi driver who the main character Poppy, she makes out with. And I don't think he counts as people we meet on vacation. She certainly does not meet Alex on vacation. So anyways, the plot on this one. Poppy and Alex became best friends in college. They're polar opposites. Would you believe it? But they're the best of friends, platonic friends. And don't you think it's anything else? They take a week-long vacation together once a year where they reconnect. But something happened 2 years ago and it stopped the trips. What could it be? You'll never guess. You could probably guess. I guessed something more, but I won't spoil it. But Poppy is a travel blogger turned travel magazine writer. And she loves to travel, but wait, now she's in a slump. Emily Henry, she likes a good slump on these girls. Her best friend asks Poppy, when was the last time you were happy? And Poppy realizes it was with Alex. Of course it was with Alex. she kind of tricks, it's not really a trick, but she kind of tricks him into going on another vacation in Palm Springs, California, where they're also going to go to his brother David's wedding at the end of the trip. And it's not approved by Poppy's magazine, so they're not going to be paying for it. So Poppy decides that she's going to pay for it, but not tell Alex, because God forbid we tell anyone the truth in these stories. Like, there are mishaps, and Poppy's trying to do everything cheap, since that's a way to reconnect with the way they used to travel together before they had any money and before she was big. Because they are doing everything cheap, all these mishaps happen. So the rental car, it's horrible. The weather, it's hot. The AC, it's broken. It's like the equivalent of there's only one bed. But wait, there also was only one bed. Alex hurts his back because he's trying to be so chivalrous and not sleep on the bed with Poppy. So then they have to sleep on the bed together. But it's the broken air conditioner that gets them together. Like, it's really clear that Alex and Poppy are in love with each other well before they actually confirm that they're in love with each other, or what happened before in the 2 year. They go to Croatia and things happen, because no one tops devotion and unrequited love quite like Emily Henry and her heroes. 10 vacations. This guy goes on 10 vacations with the girl he's in love with, and she doesn't know, and she's like, it's platonic. I ran this plot by a certified man, and he was like, no man is going on 10 vacations with a woman that he's in love with without telling her at the very least. That's probably the most unbelievable part here, that they could go 10 years. They're 32, presumably. Okay, they're 30. They're two 30-year-olds that can't have an honest conversation about their feelings because they're all in their feelings, which is exhausting. I can't imagine. Anyway, back to the vacations, because that's the part I liked the most. I've been to some of these places. I was really excited. I've been to Victoria, Canada, and I've been to Nashville, Tennessee, and I've been to Palm Springs, California. And I was like, woohoo, look at me. I go where travel bloggers go. And I've been to New Orleans. That was another one. Though I did not like New Orleans. But as soon as they leave North America, I'm like, I'm out. I can't afford these vacations anymore. I don't know anything about Norway or Sweden. I mean, I know about them, but I don't know about vacationing at them. They go to Palm Springs. It's super hot. And apparently they're just going to be there. And for some reason, this wedding is in Palm Springs in the summer, which also seems a little wild to me. But do you really plan a wedding in Palm Springs in the summer? So this one was like a 3 out of 5 for me. I liked it, but the premise was a little wild, and that two people could pretend to be platonic best friends for 12 years and not really talk about their feelings. They both sound like people who've been to therapy. The voice of a lot of these novels is someone who's very like therapy voice. If these characters have such strong therapy voice, they probably should be going to therapy and working through some of these feelings instead of just being in denial the entire book. But Alex is kind of mopey. I wasn't really into him. He kept worrying that he would be boring. I think Emily Henry really only has 2 male character types. Grumpy cactus guy who's like dark and brooding, and then you've got soft boy who's also ripped and tall, don't you worry, but he's soft and he's in his feelings and he's worried he's boring. And that one's that. Yeah. Poppy sort of feels a little like a manic pixie dream girl. She doesn't feel totally like a real person that I would meet. And I like her best friend, but she's also kind of just like New York influencer girl. But don't worry, she keeps it real because she posts outtakes about her Instagram about how none of this is real and people like her more for it. And you're like, really? Is that what people do? But I like the vacations. I enjoyed reading about vacations. I want to go on a vacation. The tropes are going to be friends to lover, drunken confessions, there was only one bed, longing, time jumps, misunderstandings that could have been resolved with a basic conversation and people functioning like they have more emotional depth than a teaspoon, taking care of injured love interest. So hot, we need to take our clothes off. The pool was drained. That's not romance trope. That one was just, they really just threw that one in there. So next we have Book Lover. I liked this one. This was my favorite. I really like Nora Ephron's. This Hallmark idea that all of her boyfriends leave New York on a business trip to some small town America and they fall in love with some girl and she's like the evil ex or the evil girlfriend that's in New York City that they have to break up with. Mwah, chef's kiss. I love it. I eat that up. It's great that she's this woman. It's happened to her 4 times in this book. You're like, girl, I can't be. Surely not. But she felt like a real person because she was like, this is ridiculous. How does this keep happening to me? It's how I would feel. So she started the story though knowing who she was and what she wanted, and she wanted to live in New York and she wanted to be an editor, even though she was a book literary agent, but she wanted to be an editor, and she ends the book in New York being a book editor. Her whole thing wasn't that she was going to go change or she was going to go move to small town America or that she was going to suddenly want kids or that she like she stayed pretty genuine to who she was the entire book. And I liked that. I liked that it wasn't Taming of the Shrew, where she's like the shrew that had to be tamed. It was a guy who really appreciated her for being kind of a shrewish person and, you know, like goals. That's great. I'm glad that she found love with someone who appreciated who she was. And I liked that fella too. I liked Charlie. I liked that he was in his hometown helping his parents and he felt like someone who valued the duty. I liked the relationship he had with his dad. He just seemed like a reasonable person who was making reasonable decisions and not just something like that a book character would do. Well, I guess I should go a little bit more into the plot first. But the premise of this one is that Nora is a book agent and she got to publish this book that idealizes a town called Sunshine Falls, which is outside of Asheville, North Carolina. And her sister is a huge fan, and her sister's name is Libby. And she convinces Nora to go on a trip to Sunshine Falls for 1 month. That's a long vacation, for 1 month to reconnect their relationship. And they've got a really kind of like tight, intense relationship because their mom died and they're really codependent, but they're moving apart. Like it needs to get resolved. And this is another one where there's a lot of therapy talk. They both sound like they've been to therapy, but for some reason they're not going to therapy. And so they're not actually talking to each other about their emotions the way one would, presumably. But anyway, so they go to this town and they're going to stay in an Airbnb and and it's 2 miles from town and there's no rental car. And they're apparently, it is summer in Asheville and they are gonna walk. So they're gonna walk their way 2 miles into town for everything. No, you are not. I don't believe it. These women need a rental car and they don't have one. There's a rental car in this one. Why are they not given a rental car? Emily Henry, why? Answer me. And then Nora wears heels and North Carolina clay. Oh, that wouldn't happen. So Nora's sister Libby was so annoying to me. She did not feel real. I can't imagine a mother leaving her really young children while she's pregnant for 3 weeks. Like her husband and her kids are going to join her after 3 weeks. So they're gone a month, but it's a 3-week thing. But then it's revealed why they're in Sunshine Falls. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I get it. And I kind of get you, Libby, but also I feel that this is not the decision I personally would make. It's a little hard for me to connect with you here. So it's just like it's a liar reveal plot point, and I just don't like the lying. I don't like lying. That's probably the point in a romance novel. So much tension would be resolved if people would just talk to each other. But that I guess that would take a lot of the wind out of the romance genre. The misunderstandings are necessary, but the most ridiculous plot point was almost the Sunshine Falls thing and like, why are we here? Except the premise. The no rental car really grinded my gears because that didn't feel like a thing that would really happen. The sister's lying instead of talking things through. Like, girls, you need to have an honest conversation a lot sooner than this. It feels so New York, I guess. I don't know. I'm not from New York. I've never been to New York. In romance terms, like, I give this one a 4.5 out of 5. I really did like it. There's some typical romance silliness, but Nora and Charlie felt really real, and I really liked their relationship, and I really bought their relationship, that they would enjoy being around each other. And Libby was not my favorite character, but, you know, she's just fine. It was enjoyable. It was an enjoyable book. And if you're going to read one, that would be my rec. I liked this one most. I don't think that's how it ranks on Goodreads, but it's the one I liked. The tropes in this one: vacation romance, rivals to lovers, liar revealed, someone makes a bet, bookshop rescue. You're looking for that one, right? You got mail, kind of. Grumpy and grumpy, which I enjoy. I enjoy a good grumpy to grumpy romance. It's when 2 cats who are hissing at each other decide to be friends. It's like Meredith Grey and Olivia Benson? Are those the name of Taylor Swift's cats? I don't really know. And then finally, Happy Place, which I don't have a book copy of right now, but like here. So Harriet and Wynn have broken up, and their friends don't know. They've been broken up for 6 months. The friends are getting together for one last epic vacation in Maine, and their friend Sabrina's house that her family owns in Maine, but it's gonna get sold, so it's the last one. And also Sabrina and her boyfriend Perth are getting married this weekend, so Harriet and Wynn can't let their friends know that they broke up. And Harriet is a medical resident, and she's not happy after the breakup, and Wynn is a himbo. That's what the youths would call him. I liked the friends in this one. That's not always the Goodreads one on that either. Like, I liked Sabrina and Perth, and I liked Kimmy and Cleo. Harriet is a major people pleaser, which I get that. And Wynn is just like so devoted. He's so devoted they have to break up. The way people feel about things instead of talking. But it all comes out the way you think. The keeping stuff from the friends, but some friends know and knew the entire time, and they were trying to get them back together, and like the having of secrets, and there's lying, and then the most ridiculous plot point in this one is Harriet decides that she's going to make pottery in Montana instead of being a doctor, and I guess she's just going to pay off those student loans, medical school student loans on her pottery. Or maybe Wynn's going to pay off those student loans now that he makes high-end furniture in Montana. This one was fine. The tropes here are second chance, stuck together, fake relationship, holiday romance, maybe, smart girl, dumb guy, overly devoted love interest, self-esteem issues all over the place. And it's a 3.5 out of 5. It's like on the same level as this guy, more or less. This might be a love interest issue for me. It's another one of the like, I am sad and in my feelings guys, instead of like, I'm a prickly cactus guy. So this may be a preference of type. So is this the Nora Ephron answer to our generation? Sure, I buy it. It's quirky girls being quirky, and it's like guys being not real, but that's kind of the point. I don't think Tom Hanks was ever real in a Nora Ephron movie, but that's okay. Billy Crystal was real. Billy Crystal? Sex icon, Billy Crystal. This feels very Gen Z. It feels like a generation jump away from Nora Ephron for sure. It's the way all the characters like talk about their feelings, and it's very therapy, and it's like listening to someone on TikTok talk about their feelings. Kind of lightly progressive, aspirational New York girl boss vibes. And the happily ever afters are different. It's not about getting married and having kids. It's about like, I'm gonna have a career and I'm gonna have fulfillment and I'm gonna find happiness that may or may not include marriage. It just involves kind of nebulously figuring things out with my hot boyfriend in New York, and it's not decisive. And I'm a decisive person, so this kind of gives me hives when I'm like, it's not nebulous, you need to make decisions. But from what I've observed about Gen Z and late millennials, that's kind of the thing, right? So it's got my favorite word from the book did come in People We Meet on Vacation, and that was about millennial ennui, which I need to read a think piece about that now. I'm gonna read Funny Story. That one sounds kind of like a Hallmark twist story the way Book Lover was, and it's a subversion of a first trope to justify, I'm sure, all the other tropes that will follow, and that sounds like a good time. The romantic comedy in theaters is pretty dead, but romance novels that can be put on my bookshelf, and I'm not mortified about putting it on my bookshelf because there are no Fabios on them, that's alive and well, and I dig it. Thanks, Emily Henry. I appreciate an answer to Nora Ephron. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Balderdash on Books. I think next week we're going to be covering something in the history department. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.